If you've ever found yourself saying, well, the reason I can't stop eating this food is because it tastes so good, I'm going to challenge that idea right here, right now. If you don't know me, I'm Marissa Beck, and I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist. I've worked for the largest names in tech, running corporate wellness programs, and now I enjoy helping people rebuild trust in food and their bodies so that they can feel energized, revved about their health and their life. And, sure, food is supposed to taste good. It's why we eat it. And frankly, it's why we're supposed to eat it by design. But when food feels out of control, it's usually not just because it tastes too good. And rather, I would argue, it's because there's a lot more going on underneath the surface of that particular moment. So to understand this concept better, I'd like to talk about hedonics. Hedonics is just a word for the pleasure response that you get from food. And it includes the flavor, the texture, aroma, and the emotional comfort that it brings. And pleasure, from food or from anything for that matter, is literally built into our evolution so that we can continue to reproduce and survive. Nothing new there. You likely know that. But when the brain senses food scarcity, and this could be from restriction or the whole, I shouldn't be eating this mindset, that same pleasure signal gets amplified. And then suddenly, right, the idea of it tasting so good turns into, I can't stop. And mind you, your taste buds haven't exactly changed while you're eating the food. It's just that your brain is responding to a perceived or a very real food deprivation. And that's driving this feeling of not wanting to stop eating. We actually have two main systems driving this concept. So homeostatic cues is the body's biological signals that tell you, hey, you need energy, so go eat something. And you can feel this with a growling stomach, or sometimes people feel it with fatigue and headaches. And then there's the hedonic cues, like the ones we just talked about. These are the pleasure-based signals tied to your environment and emotions and memories, like smelling cookies or celebrating with pizza. And these two systems are meant to work together. But if you've been dieting, or eating with strict food rules for years, your homeostatic cues may have been blunted. So the hedonic cues become a lot noisier, hence what we call food noise. You might think you're overeating for taste reasons, but often, and you may blame it on, this just tasted too good, but it often is your body trying to make up for all of that missed satisfaction or the missed calories. And I know, you're probably thinking, there is no way. I eat so many calories. There is no way, right, that my body is deprived. And I hear that, but when you dig a little deeper, okay, you might notice that maybe you skipped breakfast, or maybe you worked through lunch, or you didn't add a carbohydrate or protein to some meal, and then you're shocked about why you're starving and eating up the house at 3 p.m. There's always a reason. We just have to find out what it is. So when clients tell me they binge or they emotionally eat or they constantly overeat because the food is just too delicious, I like to peel back the layers like an onion and ask the following questions. So were you physically hungry earlier and skipped or delayed eating? Have you been labeling this food as bad? Are you trying to feel comforted or distract yourself from something else? And, food is serving a purpose in this case. It's making you feel better. Maybe you're stressed or lonely or feeling tired. And it's not to say that food can't serve that purpose. But when it becomes, right, the main coping tool, we might want to think about other ways to expand on that coping toolbox. And I actually do have some resources on my blog for this if you take a look. Or are you trying to, reclaim something that's felt off limits? Because once food is no longer scarce, either perceived scarcity or real scarcity, and I mean truly no longer scarce, as in it's allowed and available anytime, that's when the too good to stop feeling usually turns into this is really good, and I can stop when my body feels comfortably satiated. So I want to leave you with this. Feeling pleasure is amazing. We all seek it. But to feel maximum pleasure, it doesn't necessarily mean more food equals more pleasure. There's actually a sweet spot, a unique curve in your body where pleasure peaks and then it drops off. At first, those first few bites really light up your brain and they taste incredible. But after a point, your senses will adapt, your body starts signaling fullness, and that pleasure really does begin to fade. If you push past this point, the problem is that what once felt good inside your body turns into discomfort, and that's no longer pleasurable. And then you just keep this feedback loop of when you feel that way, you keep eating. So just shift this. True satisfaction and to get max pleasure is something you really have to experiment with. So next time you're eating something really tasty, notice when your body is starting to feel content and when your mind feels calm and food has done its job. Even if you eat past that point, just noticing when that pleasure curve peaks for your unique body is such a win. I'd love it if you followed for more tips and visit revhealth.com to learn more about non-diet nutrition.